Okay, so can you hear me?
Yes, Pastor.
All right, so we are now in law number 15. So at last, we're down to our last law. We started last January 15, and now, after 6 months, we are now in law number 15. So this is the conclusion of this study series on the 15 invaluable laws of growth. And law number 15 is very important because it is about the law of contribution. The law of contribution says growing yourself enables you to grow others. If you have probably recalled when you attended our first session in law number 1, we mentioned the two questions that you have to ask yourself in order for you to be successful. The first one, what are you doing to develop yourself? And the second one, what are you doing to develop others? Now, again, this is aligned with the last 14 laws that we have been studying for the past several months. And it just tells us and reminds us that if we want to grow others, if we want to give to others, if we want to add value to others, then we have to take care of ourselves because we cannot give something that we do not have. All right. So let's start. Um, it says here, if you're not doing something with your life, it doesn't matter how long it is. Because the law of contribution is how we contribute to the lives of others. So if we are not doing something with the life that God has given us, and we are not doing something to benefit others, to reach others for the Lord, to build them up in the knowledge of the Lord, then it doesn't matter how long our life is. It doesn't matter if you live until your 30s or 40s or 50s or 60s or 70s, because it's not about how long your life is. It's about what you did with that life that you have. So it doesn't mean that if you have reached 70 years old or if you've reached 80 years old, that you've lived a good life. And those who have, you know, died in their 20s or 30s or 40s, that they were deprived of living a good life. It doesn't work that way. It just means that if you're not doing something with your life, it doesn't matter how long it is. What matters is what you're doing with what you have now and whether you are contributing, you are ministering, you are serving, um, and fulfilling the mission that God has for you. Um, this is Benjamin Franklin's statement. He said, I would rather have it said that he lived usefully rather than he died rich. So many people would like to die rich, but for him, he would rather to have it said about his life that he lived usefully. That means he contributed to the lives of others. And this is what the law of contribution is all about. Now, remember when we were talking about the definition of leadership all throughout this course, we said that a leader is a person of value who values others and who adds value to others. I hope you still recall that definition, that it starts with you. It starts with you who is a person of value. You have something to give, you have something to contribute. You invest in yourself, you put yourself in a growing environment. You have a growth plan because you value others so much that you want to add value to them. And you know that without adding value to yourself, you cannot give to others. So in your workbook, the missing words are underlined and highlighted here. So you may want to take note. But it's very, very important. You cannot give what you do not have. So, in order for you to contribute, in order for you to grow others, you yourself, we ourselves should be growing. In fact, I think this is still Benjamin Franklin who has this habit that every day, when he wakes up in the morning, he would always ask himself, what good shall I do today? Now, that's intentional living. That's what we call intentional living. That means he would ask himself every day, what good thing shall I do today? And at the end of the day, he would always ask himself, what good have I done today? So, this is, if you recall, this is the law of reflection. Okay. The front end and the back end thinking. That means you plan and then you reflect at the end of the day. So, I think most of us know, or if not very familiar, you have heard about Benjamin Franklin. And this is what he did with his life. He started it with asking himself, what good shall I do today? And ended it with, what good have I done today? Because for him, his day, if God has given him another day to live, that means he has something to contribute. He has something to give. There is something good that he can do that will benefit other people and not just himself. And this is where it all starts, the law of contribution. We all can contribute something to others. It doesn't matter whether you're young or you're old or you're educated or you haven't um, gotten a lot of education. It doesn't matter. God has given each one of us different, unique gifts that we can use to contribute to the lives of other people. Now, be a river, not a reservoir. So what does this mean? We would we should be a river, not a reservoir. Now, look at the picture here. So this is what you call a reservoir. A reservoir is a body of water that is immobile and still. That means it was built just to hold water. Okay, it's often filled with stagnant water. Of course, they would use water for supply, etc. But the main purpose of a reservoir is to hold water. It's like one giant puddle. Okay. Now, a river, on the other hand, is constantly flowing. It's full of living things and it feeds into a larger body of water. It goes on to bigger and better things. Now, it says here that we should be a river, not a reservoir. What does it mean exactly? So, a reservoir is when you study, learn, grow from all your experiences in life for your own benefit. It's just about me. What's in it for me? How can I benefit from this? So it's all about me. But being a river is that you are constantly learning and passing on your experiences to others for their benefit. I think we have discussed this in the law of reflection, where we said that when our experiences are turned into insights as we reflect, as we process, as we meditate, and those insights will be turned into wisdom. And when we share it with other people. So this is all about capacitating myself, building myself, adding value to myself, not just for my benefit, but so that I can be more effective. I can be used more. I can be a blessing more. I can serve more, and God can use me more. So that's what we mean when we say be a river, not a reservoir. All right? Now, As you meditate on being a river and not a reservoir, you may want to ask yourself the following questions. All right. Now, in your workbook, most of these are there, so that you have to fill in the blank. But think about a person that fits in this question. Say, for example, who mentors you and offers you a baseline of wisdom? Who did that to you, or who's doing that to you? Okay. Do you have a person in mind, a person who's mentoring you and offering you a baseline of wisdom? The second question is, who mentors you to aspire to be a better person? Is there someone who would inspire you to be a better person? Who's that person? Okay. Can you think of someone? Another question is, who challenges you to think? Okay. Not just, agrees with everything you say and, doesn't question or doesn't challenge you, but they would challenge you to think, to reconsider, to think deeper. Who's that person? Next, who cheers on your dreams when you share your plans, your dreams, your hopes, your aspirations? Who are those people who would say, "We have your back. We're rooting for you. Go for it. Okay, you can do it," rather than pull you down or discourage you. Who are those people? Okay, I hope you have names in your mind right now. The next question is, who cares enough to rebuke you? Now, this is quite difficult, right? Because in our culture, Filipinos, we are not um, naturally confrontational. Okay, so we would criticize others behind their backs, but when we are confronted, we would say, "Oh, it's nothing." I mean, we're not very comfortable with confrontation, but only those who care enough. Okay, if they care enough, they would correct you, of course, in private or in a constructive manner, but they care enough to let you know what you're doing wrong or what areas you need to improve. So is there someone who cares enough to remind you, rebuke you, correct you in, of course, in a constructive manner? The next question is, who is merciful when you have failed? That means all of us fails, right? All of us fail. But, you know, most people, when they see others fail, they would feel happy about it. Okay. They would feel a certain relief. Okay. Because, um, I was not the one who failed. But there are people that when you fail, they show mercy, they show consideration, they show empathy. Okay, so who are those people in your life who are not happy when you fail, but show mercy when you fail? Another question: who shares the load in pressurized moments without being asked? That means you don't have to force them. You don't have to plead with them. You don't have to, ask them. But when they know that you are in a difficult situation, you are in a stressful circumstance, they would willingly help. They would be the first to say, "What can I do to help? How can I be of assistance? What are the things that I can do to make the load lighter?" Okay? Without being asked. Who are those people? Is there someone who's doing that for you? Next is, who brings fun and laughter into your life? That means um, uh, they're the people who, would encourage you not to take things very seriously, but, just enjoy the journey and have fun. Take time to enjoy because we need that. Next, who gives you perspective when you become dispirited? That means many of us would become discouraged. Many of us would become disheartened. Many of us would want to quit. But who are those people who would give you the right perspective so that you can press on and go on serving God or doing what you need to do? The next is, who inspires you to seek faithfully after God? That means someone who is spiritual enough to encourage you to seek God first and seek Him faithfully with your whole heart. Who's that person? Another thing, who loves you unconditionally? That means without any condition. Okay. Now, these are questions that when you ask yourself, you would you would be reminded of people, someone, or a friend, or a parent, or a mother, or a father, or someone who would encourage you to be your best, right? Now, when we talk about being a river and not a reservoir, if you have been receiving all this inspiration, all this encouragement, all this help, all this assistance, it's about time that you turn these questions around on yourself and reflect how you can be this person to someone else. So it's not just about me being inspired. It's not me about being encouraged, being helped, being loved unconditionally, being given inspiration and wisdom. But being a river means when I receive it, I also passed it on. We call it pay it forward. We call it being channels of blessing to others. So we are not just a reservoir. We are not just receiving and getting and accumulating, but we receive to give. We get so that we have something to share. So we are blessed to be a blessing. So that's what it means to be a river and not a reservoir. We are not just getting, but we get so that we have something to give or to share. We are just, you know, channels, conduits of God's blessing to others. And this, I think, is very important. You know, when you think of all the blessings, all the um, things that God has given us, it's not about me receiving all those things. But when we turn these questions to ourselves, who am I inspiring? Who am I encouraging? Who am I loving? Who am I helping? So that means you are now a river where God's blessings flow through you, through your life. Out of your life, Jesus will shine. All right. The next quote is from, I think this is US President, former US President Jimmy Carter. He said, I have one life and one chance to make it count for something. And this is really true, right? Whether you're a Christian or you're not a Christian, you only have one life. We only have one chance to make this life count for something. My faith demands that I do whatever I can, wherever I am, whenever I can, for as long as I can, with whatever I have to try to make a difference. So I think many of us are familiar with the song, Only One Life, so soon it will pass. Only what's done for Christ will last. So the law of contribution reminds us that, hey, God gave me something so that I have something to share. I have something to use to bless others. Now, when we make the right contribution choices, these are the things that we have to remember. First, we need to be grateful. You know why? Because people who aren't grateful are not givers. People who are not um, thankful, okay? They think that they deserve more. They think that they deserve more than what they already have. They think that they deserve what others have. So they are not grateful and they are not givers either. That means if you are not grateful, you are entitled. You feel you deserve more than what you already have. When the opposite is true, okay, the opposite is true. We already have more than what we deserve. I remember reading about someone whenever friends or anyone would ask him, "How are you? How are you doing?" So the normal response of people is, great. I'm good. Okay. I'm well. I'm doing fine. But for him, whenever a friend or someone would ask him, "How are you doing?" he would always respond in this manner: better than I deserve. Better than I deserve. You know what? I think that is very true. We already have more than what we deserve. Our condition, whether we are um, in something, we are suffering, we are sick, we still have better than what we really deserve. For us who are saved, we know that what we deserve is judgment, condemnation, eternal separation from God, eternal damnation. But here we are, maybe not having much that the world has to offer, but we are healthy. We can do something for God. God provides. God uses us. We have a family. We have so many things that we actually do not deserve to have. So it's very important that we have a grateful spirit. That's why the Bible would always say, "In everything give thanks, for this is the will of God in Christ Jesus concerning you." Because people who are not grateful, they're not givers. They think they're the ones who should be getting, not the ones who should be giving. So they rarely think about others. Those who aren't grateful, they rarely think about others. They think only of themselves. Their day consists of looking for others, um, to help them, give to them, or serve them. So their days are not about looking for others to help, but they are only thinking about themselves. All right? There is no success without sacrifice. Now, I'd like you to think about this thought. There is no success without sacrifice. If we succeed without sacrifice, then it is because someone who went before us made the sacrifice. If you sacrifice and you don't see success, then someone who follows will reap success from your sacrifice. I think this is very important. Um, Many of us, incidentally, we are now celebrating Independence Day here in the Philippines. It's June 12, right? So many of us are enjoying freedom. But, Independence Day is about enjoying independence because there have been people before us who made the sacrifice so that we will enjoy the freedom that we have right now. And I think the last phrase is also important, that if you're sacrificing and you don't see success now, then someone who follows will also reap success from your sacrifice. That means we are not self made individuals. That means whatever we achieve in life, it's not about just me. It's about people who contributed to make me who I am today. It's about people who sacrifice so that I can enjoy whatever I'm enjoying now. It's about people who have, you know, have done what they're supposed to do so that I can be what I can be for the Lord. So that means I should be grateful because without them, without their sacrifice, then we wouldn't be enjoying what we are having now. All right. So it's important to be grateful. The next thing is put people first. Okay. What is this? What is this about? Well, it just means that people are important more than programs, more than activities, more than anything else. Okay. It's about people. In the Christian world, in the Christian context, it's souls that matter. We emphasize souls to be saved and people to be equipped, to be trained, to be used, okay, so that they can be used for the glory of God. So, how far, this is George Washington Carver who said this, how far you go in life depends on your, first, being tender with the young, second, being compassionate with the aged, third, sympathetic with the striving, and fourth, tolerant of the weak and strong. Because someday in life, you will have been all of these. That means you will experience being young, you will experience being aged, you will experience striving, you will experience being weak and strong. So you have to be kind, you have to be compassionate, you have to treat people with respect and dignity. Now, the measure of success is not the number of people who serve you, but the number of people you serve. And this is, manifested in the Bible. Jesus Christ serving rather than him being served, calling people great. Okay. The greatest are not those who are being served, but those who serve. When people are number one in your life, adding value to them becomes natural. You do it as a matter of lifestyle. You add value to people because you value people and you believe that they have value. So, what we're doing now is not about just me adding value to myself, but since I value others, I need to grow so that I can also grow others. Okay? So, this is about putting people first. The next thing is don't let stuff own you. So it talks about materialism. Um, it's been said that there are three groups of people: those who have, the haves, the have-nots. That means the rich, the poor, and the have not paid for what they have. That means those who try. Okay, a lot of economies now are suffering because of too much credit. Okay, getting something that you cannot afford, living a lifestyle that you cannot afford. So that means we are conditioned to be attracted to materialism, material things. The Bible calls it covetousness. Okay, wanting things that God hasn't given to you. Okay, so covetousness. Owning things is an obsession in our culture. House, car, jewelry, appliances, gadgets, etc. If we own it, we feel it will give us more pleasure. But the idea is an illusion. Okay, so you mean to say that those who have more in life are more happy? Of course not. You mean to say that those who are rich are the happiest people? Of course not. You mean to say that those who flaunt their wealth in social media, wearing designer clothes, having designer bags, driving, luxurious cars, owning planes, yachts, etc., are those who are most happy? Of course not. We know better than that. But still, this culture of materialism and consumerism and having wanting to have more has captivated a lot of people. So it's not about things that I own. It's about what I give, what I share. In fact, in the Bible, um, the Bible tells us that God is able to make all grace abound toward you, so that ye, having all sufficiency in all things, may abound to every good work. That means it's not me abounding in all material things, it's about having enough, sufficient for me, but abundant for others. That means God intends that what He gives to us is not just to make us more comfortable, more rich, more materially well off. It's about having a cap on our lifestyle. Okay. Ah, there are, just listening to the corruption issue. Okay. Not just here in the Philippines, but all over the world. It seems like politicians can't seem to have enough, right? Not just thousands, billions, and now billions are being stolen. So because of, you know, they just want to have more. So contributors take the stuff they own and use it as an asset to make this world a better place to live. It's not about, you know, all those designer stuff, all those eh, um, the extravagant, the exorbitant, and the the expensive things. So they do this regardless of how much or how little they have. Now, some of the most generous people I know really don't have much. They don't have much material things, but they have so much generosity in their heart that, I think many of us can relate to this. That when it's time to contribute, it's time to give, you see them giving more than those who seem to have more. Because it's not about what you have, it's about how you see the things that God has given you, whether it's just for you, for your own enjoyment, or God wants to use you to bless others. Of course, we know about this story in Luke chapter 12, verses 15 to 21, okay, about the rich man who was successful in his business, in his farming, and he wants to amass and accumulate all things, store bigger barns, build greater, and then enjoy life, enjoy the fruits of his labor. But God said, thou fool, this night thy soul shall be required of thee. Because in the very first place, God gives us things not just to accumulate, not just to enjoy, but also to share to others. Next, don't let people own you. Now, this is interesting because um, when people provides or when people help or when people give, most of those have strings attached. All right. What I'm trying to say is, um, when people give a favor to you, they think they can already dictate. They think they can already say, um, they think that they can already tell you what to do, and that's not right. Okay. Because when you want to grow others, you want to give yourself away, it's hard to do it when you are owned by someone. I'm not talking about, husband and wife. It's about being owned by someone who just helped you, who just gave you a favor. So it's very important that um we do not allow ourselves to be owned by people. So when people help, of course, we thank them, we accept. However, we do not allow people to dictate or to, hold us hostage simply because of the things that they share with us. So be able to value people with no strings attached. A giving life should be liberating to yourself and to those you help. Okay? So don't let people own you. Now, next, define success as sowing, not reaping. I'd like to emphasize this. In fact, when I was preparing for this and I was I went through this lesson, this is something that hit me because many times we define success as reaping. Okay, so that means it's when we enjoy the awards, the rewards, the reaping time, the harvest time. That's when we say we're successful. But this is something different. Defining success as sowing, not reaping. Now, it's all about this. It's all about the seeds we sow rather than the harvest we reap. Of course, in the Bible, we know that um, the principle of sowing and reaping, right? Okay, we know that God is not mocked, for whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. But many times, a lot of people are discouraged because they do not get to experience the harvest. God only allows them to do the planting and the watering, but God would allow someone else to harvest the crop or the blessing. And they would feel bad about it. They would feel that they're not successful. But when you change your perspective, your mindset, okay, what I'm doing when I'm planting seeds of the gospel, when I'm, training people, when I am developing people, when I am equipping people, when I am adding value to them, that's success, regardless of who harvests, who reaps the the um the benefit. Okay. So again, this is very important. We define success as sowing, not reaping. So at the end of our life, at the end of the day, we ask ourselves, what did I reap or what did I harvest? But what did I sow? Who did I help? What good thing have I done? Okay, so this is very important. After sowing, there is a period of time when it looks like nothing is happening. All the growth is below the surface. That means when you sow, when you plant something, sometimes it doesn't grow immediately, but it's there. It's growing, it's developing. But, it will take time before that seed, before that plant will grow to become mature and will bear fruit. But again, when we define success as sowing and not reaping, then we will feel a sense of accomplishment, a sense of joy, a sense of happiness because we have contributed. We have sown, not just reaped. Of course, God may allow us to reap, to enjoy harvest time, but if He allows someone else to experience that, we are still not discouraged because our success is not based on the reaping, but in the sowing. So if you are sowing only for quick returns in life, then you will usually be unhappy with the outcome and unable to keep giving and living while waiting. On the other hand, if you sow continually and abundantly, you can be sure that in due season there will be a harvest. Okay? And this is what the Bible has told us. God is not mocked. For whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. That's why in Galatians 6:9, let us not be weary in well doing. So this is what's the focus here. Don't stop. Don't quit. Don't get tired of doing good because in due season we shall reap if we faint not. So it's not just about, just waiting for the harvest season, but we are already considering that when we are doing good things, we are doing the ministry, we are serving, that's already success. Okay, that's the point here. That's why the Apostle Paul also told us in 1 Corinthians 15:58, therefore, my beloved brethren, be ye steadfast. Okay, so this is the sowing. Steadfast, unmovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord. for as much as you know that your labor is not in vain in the Lord. You see, this is about sowing what you do now. Okay? Will be rewarded later. The harvest time will be later. But what you do now is already success. Okay? Just the fact that you're doing the will of God, doing the work of God, sharing the word of God, that's success already. Okay? Regardless of whether God will allow you to see the results or not. All right? So defining success as sowing, not reaping. The next thing is focus on self development, not self fulfillment. Now, what's the difference? You may ask, what's the difference between self development and self fulfillment? So here it is. Self fulfillment thinks of how something serves me. Okay. So I need to, what's in it for me? So many people would ask that if they will be if there are opportunities to help, opportunities to give, opportunities to share, they would always ask this question: what's in it for me? How can I gain from that? So it's all about me, serving me. That's self-fulfillment. But self-development thinks of how something helps me to serve others. That means I have to develop myself so that I can serve others. With self fulfillment, feeling good is the product. With self development, serving others is the product. But feeling good is the byproduct of service. Okay. You know, it's the same thing with joy. Okay. You don't chase joy, you don't chase happiness. Okay. You don't chase um uh you know uh just like I said, joy, because these are byproducts of serving God, serving others, and losing yourself for God and for others. Then that's when you experience joy. It's like it's like a butterfly. The more you chase it, the more it flees, the more it flies away. But when you know that when you're doing something, it just comes to you. So it's all about motive. Okay. So self development is me developing myself. My goal is to serve others, and feeling good will just come naturally. But self fulfillment, my goal is how can I feel good? Okay. So that's the end goal. And it's all about me. How can I be happy? How can I feel good? How will this benefit me? So it's not about, when you have that kind of mindset, you are not contributing. You want to get, you want to be helped, you want to receive. But we know that, as the Bible says, it is more blessed to give than to receive. Blessed means happy, joyful. Okay. You are more joyful or happy when you give rather than when you receive. All right. So keep growing to keep giving. This is very important. And this is our last point: to keep growing. Now, when you stop growing, you know what happens? Okay. That's why um, we are very blessed to have this lesson about the 15 laws of growth, because we want to keep growing so that we can keep giving. Because remember, you cannot give what you do not have, right? So when you stop growing, you lose your innovative spirit. Okay, you lose the passion, you lose the drive, you lose your vision to do more, so that you can help more and give more. When you stop growing, you focus on being efficient instead of breaking ground. That means you focus on, the process rather than on what greater things can I do. Now, there's nothing wrong with being efficient, but if that's the focus and there's no more greater vision out there, that's when you know you have stopped growing. It cut costs instead of investing in growth. That means you're just worried about the operational things instead of, you know, growing things and expansion and doing more for for serving others. Your vision becomes very limited. And this is very true. Okay. When we stop growing, then our vision also becomes short sighted, becomes limited. The next is we play not to lose instead of we play to win. Okay. How, um, how limited can I do, or what are the only things I do so that I will not lose instead of giving it all for you to win. You lose your passion, and of course, the best days are behind us. You always look back, oh, those are the days when, you know, I was at my best. So the best days are already behind you. But when you continue to grow, just like what we said last week, the law of expansion, there is no finish line here. You continue to grow until the Lord calls you home. That's when the real finish line, that's where the real finish line is. But as long as God gives us this opportunity here in this world, we continue to grow so that we can continue to give and contribute to other people. And this is a passage many of us are aware of. We all can contribute something. There is no one, no one here listening to me right now who has not been given something, a gift from God that you can use to minister to others. Okay, we have different gifts. We don't have the same gifts. God has designed it that way. But of course, we have so many things to do. And at this point, looking back in my own personal life, doing the ministry, doing things for the Lord, I look back and I see a lot of people. They may not be very intelligent, they may not be very well educated, they may not be rich, they may not be, they may not be big people, but they did something so that I can be where I am now and who I am now. I am not a self made individual. Many of the things that I've accomplished because there are other people who prayed for me. There are other people who assisted me. There are people who prepared me. There are people who sacrificed for me. So it's now my turn to contribute to other people. We only have one life, one chance to use our God given gifts to contribute to the lives of others. Let's not waste it. And this is what the law of contribution is all about. God has given us gifts that we can use to minister to others. We can use it or we can waste it. But with the law of contribution, we don't want to waste it. We want to use it for God's glory so that we can be a blessing to more people. And with that, we're going to have our discussion with our group this evening. And these are our discussion guides, okay, that you will share with your group. Number one, please share with your group how your life is more of a river rather than a reservoir. Remember our what we learned earlier, a river, you receive so that you can give. A reservoir, you just receive and you store it there. Okay? So it's about giving. What have you what have you received and how has your life been used as a river? And then how did becoming more grateful made you more generous? So that's the second question. That means we said ungrateful people are not generous people. They think they are entitled to more. But those who are grateful believe that they have more than what they deserve. That's why they can be more generous. And the third, why is it more important to define success as sowing and not as reaping? Now, I'm not saying that reaping is less important, okay? Or reaping is not important, but what we're saying here is many of us have not seen it this way. that when you sow, it's already part of success. Okay. That's why we get discouraged because we have not seen growth, we've not seen results. But defining success as sowing and not just as reaping will also do more wonders and more good things to us. All right. So I hope we can discuss these questions before we end our last session tonight. Back to you, Myra.